Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me.
To start with, could you maybe tell us about your role in the Australian Institute for Machine Learning and the Art Intelligence Program?
Yeah, so I do a broad range of things, but lately I've been doing a lot of defence-related projects, a lot of visual question answering. So that's when we get machine learning to automatically answer your questions posed in just plain English, and help with a lot of things, but also been helping out with our art intelligence program and trying to use a bit of creativity and imagination there.
Cool. Maybe we can focus a bit on Art Snob. If you could tell us, for those who haven't seen it before, what it is and how you made it.
Yeah, this is an app that, and just to acknowledge that there's a few different team members on it, Anthony and Thomas and Sam and myself. And the idea is it's an app that gives a machine-generated artist's interpretation of a photograph. So you've probably been to an art gallery and there's the artwork, and then next to it there's a plaque on the wall with an artist's statement or an artist's description of their artwork, and it's like their interpretation of their own artwork. And it gives you a bit of context for how to interpret the artwork, perhaps. And so what we've done is made an app that uses machine learning or AI to provide a machine interpretation of just any photograph you take, like a pot plant or a coffee cup or, the sunset at the beach or something, whatever you want to take a picture of a real thing. It'll interpret that as an artwork. And, maybe some of the inspiration here came from the banana taped to the wall idea of interpreting that as an artwork. How do you interpret that? And the way it does it is it draws on lots and lots of examples of artworks and the narratives that have been created by people, and runs a training algorithm using artificial neural networks, and then can just, giving you a picture, it finds out some things about the picture using machine learning, and then it takes those visual elements, turns into text, and then runs a natural language generation model that can just generate actually lots of captions. So it's kind of semi-randomized in a sense, in that it's giving like a distribution or a sampling over possible artist statements. So you can generate lots of artist statements. So if you go to the app and it says regenerate, it'll just generate you another description and another description and another description, and you can try them. So
Cool.
It's amazing, and creativity and I guess creative writing is sometimes seen as the kind of final frontier for artificial intelligence. What's the more difficult part of bringing the idea to fruition?
There's a few difficulties. One is, one of the technical problems we have at the moment is, that perhaps these are very new technologies, so it's not perfect, you'll find. That leads to like hilarity and amusement, really, when you use it. But, sometimes it gets the image content wrong, or, the narrative starts talking about things that are not really in the picture, and they, are things that we all need to work on as the technology improves. And, even with the amount of effort we've put in, we haven't fully exploited kind of state-of-the-art technology in this area fully on the project. I guess, when we get more to the artistic side, talk about, well, what is it really trying to do? What does it mean? Meaning coming out of artificial intelligence at the moment, and meaning and art, these are all, I guess, hot topics. I guess meaning is a challenge for machine learning at the moment, because these natural language models, they can generate very realistic seeming text that, will have the right grammar. It'll sound like a human wrote it. But over a long span of text, you might find actually the meaning is lost, that it kind of got a dreamlike element to it, that it's not necessarily getting all the facts correct or being consistent within itself. So they're all things that we're working on here at the Australian Institute of Machine Learning.
Some of that seemed to work quite well, though, in context of Art Snob, because we had a bit of a play with it before we went live today. And sometimes that dreamlike, nonsensical, or, you know, when it contradicted itself, it kind of added to the mystique of the artist statement for me.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, art and where we're at with natural language generation at the moment, maybe it's a good fit because, you know, nobody's going to die if the results are not right or something. It sort of fits well with art. And an interesting thing about it is, you know, these models, these natural language models like GPT-2 and BERT that some listeners might have heard of, they're trained on hundreds of millions of web pages. So it's like a snapshot of human culture that we have at the moment that's been like reduced into this artificial brain, if you like, that we can just ask it questions or get it to kind of dream from within itself or create from itself. And the way it generally works is you give it some text and you say, complete this sentence or complete this paragraph or something like that, and see what it comes up with. And it's like regurgitating, you know, in a complex way or in a structured way. It's like a kind of memorization of the collective of what people have put on the web. So it is kind of like some sort of cultural snapshot of humanity within some demographic, right, web pages, I guess.
Yeah. I guess to that end, how do you when we're talking about AI that's creating music or creating a work of visual art, how do you avoid the AI engines and algorithms that output coming across as derivative per se?
Yeah. Well, sometimes you want it to be derivative, so you do what we call fine tuning to be in a certain style. And an example of that is if anybody's been following Freud AI, you know, initially we just kind of used a very generic model that had been trained on every kind of text and got it to complete our aphorisms, you know, like life is all about, and then get it to complete that sentence. But then more recently, one of our researchers got the writings of Marcus Aurelius and some other and some psychologists and stuff, and then fine-tuned it so that it would be more derivative from those. And it's kind of changed its tone a bit. It talks a lot about self-control and things like that. Like,
Interesting.
yeah, so it's kind of changed its tone, you might have noticed. So we might switch back or change it again. But, yeah, well, there's lots of different options. Like, this is a very rapidly evolving field. So there's something like 100 machine learning papers going out on the archive website every day where things are published. To keep up with it is very difficult. So there's lots of different types of work going on all the time, and some of them you can control and give a context, like a control code to tell it, generate this kind of text. So, yeah, there's lots of things to try to stop things just being derivative. And, you know, there's also heuristics that you can apply to the text that generate, like generate 1,000 texts and then pick the best one according to some criteria or something like that, that it's somehow the least repetitive or derivative. But yeah, these models tend to always surprise me and come out with some crazy stuff. So at one point, Freud was talking about, you know, buying hockey equipment or something, and as a self.
Not what I would have expected. So going back to Art Snob, what do you hope that people will take away from that work when they interact with it?
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a reflection on interpretation of art, and, you know, maybe saying something about the kind of regularities in the artist statements, the kinds of things that people say that, you know, we can auto-generate this. But yeah, I guess it's about, you know, a human can interpret art, so could a computer interpret art? So what would a computer's interpretation of art be?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I'm just wondering, for people who haven't used Art Snob before, could you maybe describe an example that you have, maybe what the image is and then how the AI interprets it?
Yeah, so I've got an example on my screen. Sorry, it's a bit difficult to share. And it's got a picture of a cat on a chair. And Art Snob said, in this piece, we see the cat is sitting on a chair. I had to draw the cat out of his body and show it to him. It was difficult to make this work of art because it was not intended to be something real. I wanted to make something that is actually a cat. My wife, Barbara, was a very busy lady. She made a lot of pictures of the cat, which she put in the studio. She was very kind to me. Barbara did not know me. Her picture collection is full of pictures of cats. The poor guy, his wife never knew him. But
Oh my God, there's so much to unpack in that one description.
yeah, so try it for yourself at home, and you can have hours of fun, with your friends and family, taking pictures of each other and seeing what it says about you and things like that.
Who knows, it might even be useful for some artists who are struggling to write their artist statements. It could give them some ideas.
Exactly. So I think, for a long time, artists have used randomization or stimuli to try to promote creativity. Things like, auto writing or, randomly picking bits out of books or songs or something like that. And that's one of the potentials for machine learning. We don't necessarily see it as something that is creative in itself, and you just use it to generate creative things and make humans feel terrible because look, we do to the computer. It's more like the creativity still comes from the human artists, but machine learning is giving us new tools that an artist can use in their creative process or in generating the art. So, you could just generate lots of text, to complete, imagine you're writing a song and you go, well, I've got the first line. How would I write the rest of this verse? And you could generate 100 of them, and you could mix them, or you could just say, well, I don't want to choose any of them, but I'm getting ideas from them and I'll write my own. Just keep in a feedback loop like that. And you can do this visually as well, generating images and things like that.
Absolutely. I'm sure that will be a relief for lots of artists watching to hear that they're not being replaced. They just maybe have an extra tool to play with.
Yeah. So, and, if there's any artists listening to this, invite them to, if you're interested in technology and artificial intelligence, things like that, and interested in collaborating, please reach out to us, because I think, we're got a lot of technical people here. We've got 130, Jeannie and I are working on machine learning, but not so many artists. And, I think good artwork really stems from someone having an idea and a passion and a reason to make an artwork, so their artist statements, they have real stories and they have real ideas, and that's what makes it really good, rather than being driven by technology. So we need to team up with artists to help to enable them and to realise their ideas, I guess, or show them what's possible.
That's so good to know. So some potential collaborations if people are watching, which is fantastic. Now, Jamie, in your bio, you talk about wanting to realise the potential of machine learning to change the world for the better. So we wondered, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I guess I'm just looking all the time for ways that problems can be solved in industry, government, defence, using machine learning. And, some things, like make jokes about in Silicon Valley are just like drawing moustaches on people during video conferences or something like that, or virtual backgrounds in Zoom, and you might think, that didn't really change the world. I think that's fun as well, and so is art, and art can enrich people's lives, so that is making the world better. But, there's huge potential in medicine, agriculture, mining, to really, save people's lives, really, in medicine. For example, by making radiology more accurate, or if that's possible. I've got this grand idea that I haven't done anything about it, that you could have an app that tries to optimize your life and your lifespan, and maybe your career and your income as well, by drawing on the data from everybody. People who did this lived a year longer, so why don't you do that? These are all things that could be possible in the future if we had enough data and the technology advances. It's machine learning is a technology. It's like the next level of the industrial revolution. You can apply it to everything, and it's different every time. So that is quite a challenge in this field. So every time you get a new problem, you have to learn this new domain of knowledge about whatever it is. Some new disease, if it's medical machine learning, or some new kind of plant or disease to do with a plant, or kind of problem with land use or something, if it's agriculture. Huge learning curves for us when we apply this. But we are passionate here about applying it and using it to help everybody.
Absolutely. It's exciting to hear all the different possibilities.
And I think one thing about this art program is it shows, people probably think, artificial intelligence, terminators and singularities and things like that. And it's just showing that it's really not like that at all. Not at the moment anyway, hopefully never. And, it is very multifaceted, flexible technology. We've got a lot to discover. We don't really know what the future will look like of it. But it's unfolding in lots of different ways, and some of it is creative and artistic and able to, tell us something about ourselves and what it means to be human and conscious, and, being able to interpret and filter and use all the data from the whole world, which would kind of be impossible for one person to do, but, being able to control that in different ways.
Yeah, certainly. And we're just getting a question through now from one of our busy little moderators who's working behind the scenes. Jacob asks, does the integration of AI into art production pose any issues for copyright or intellectual property?
Well, I guess, if you're making a software system, you would handle that in the normal ways. So the models that you use are all trained on large amounts of data, and you would have to look at the copyright of the training data, and that can be an issue. Something that's I find interesting is nearly all of the image recognition systems come from a base model that was trained on something called the ImageNet data set, and of millions of images. And it's, things like cats and dogs and aeroplanes and 1,000 different objects just in sort of normal pictures that came from Flickr mostly. And the license for that is for academic use only. But then these models get used in industry for commercial purposes, and presumably they're still using a model that was derived from that data. And then you could ask, well, it's not really the data itself, it's a model whose parameters were tuned on that data. What's the copyright or the licensing of that? And it seems to be that it's just never been tested in court and hopefully never will. So it's just one of those grey things. I think there's a lot of issues like that legally where people go, it's a bit iffy, but it's actually never been tested in court. But then using those models, and in terms of people's copyright, if somebody does something and then that gets absorbed into a model that's being trained constantly, I guess, to use the system, you would have to agree to yield the copyright or somehow share in the any royalties that come from that. So, sorry, I don't have any concrete answers, but I guess there's some other kind of issues or ideas.
No, yeah, that's great. And actually, that jogged my memory. I think I remember a few years ago there was a university trying to make or creating an AI legal assistant for people to get access to legal help using a legal assistant. Have you heard about that one?
Not specifically, but I have heard that machine learning has been very useful with in the legal domain. For example, and quickly analysing legal documents and maybe looking for areas that are alarming to the lawyer or something. Obviously searching for large amounts of data that lawyers have to sift through, case studies and things like that. But I think there's huge potential there. I think summarisation of documents and extracting meaning and structure from documents automatically, or answering questions, as we do a lot of here question answering stuff at AML. That's all very useful. So imagine having, we've been doing work on a medical database interface where you can say, how many patients had lung cancer and also smoked last year or something. You write it in English and then it will search this database and come back with the answer. And also combining that with then able to actually look at their X-ray and automatically extract potential, tumours from the X-ray, and combining all that. So the language and the visual, which is one of our specialties. So same kind of concepts could be applied to the legal domain. And also chatbots is an extension of that we're interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And I guess you hinted at it there, but what other projects and ideas are you exploring at the moment?
Oh, well, here at AML, there's just tons. There's so much happening. We're 130 people and growing, and there's a lot of industry and government connections going on. In the art domain, we're looking at continuing with things like Art Snob and Freud AI. We're going to try and get Freud, maybe answering people's questions as a counsellor or something, which people have to really take it tongue-in-cheek and not take it too seriously. We have a drawing robot, which I don't know if you've come across that. So we have a robot arm that you give it a photograph and then it does a sketch drawing, like a line drawing of that. And we want to make it so you can, on the web, you can say, draw me a cat juggling or something, and juggling, and maybe post it out to you. So it's one of the things we're interested in. With the cowboy song, so you can listen to that in SoundCloud, where we generated some lyrics, and then Paul, who works here as well, and myself, we recorded a song that performed it. And we want to have a totally machine learning generated performance where it's playing the melody and all the instruments and singing it as well, and just have it running 24/7, just a continuously running cowboy song. And which I don't know if that's good or bad, but
well, I guess that's the good thing about AI. It won't get tired. Its voice won't cut out.
Exactly. We've been working on a singing synthesizer. So you have a keyboard and you play a melody, and there are some words which could be auto-generated or provided by you, and it sings the melody. So that's something that we're working on a demo song to showcase it, and then hopefully we can get some artists to use it in their music. And we're also doing a lot of natural language generation stuff with structure. So looking at generating stories automatically. As to say, you say, I want a story about, two kids who ride their bikes to the creek and they help a sick deer, and then they buy ice cream or something, and then it can write you a 500-word essay about that automatically. And generating song lyrics with more structure and things like that.
Wow, so much happening in that one place.
There's another project which has been talked about and hopefully will happen about trying to communicate with fish.
Oh, that's more.
By looking at the behaviour of fish, and then you do something and then see what the fish do and try to learn patterns.
Interesting. So there's so much there to think about. Jamie, we have to wrap up soon. So just wondering if people are interested to find out more about you and your work and about this area, where do you suggest they start?
Yeah, so we post things on Twitter and LinkedIn to do with the Australian Institute of Machine Learning, or you can look at my account as well. And AML has a webpage, you could go to the Art Snob webpage, which is artsnob.appspot.com. So it's artsnob.appspot.com. And also you can search for Freud AI on Twitter, FROYDAI. So there are some ideas, or you could email me if you want.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's great. And we'll drop all those links in to the chat, or they might have already just appeared as well. So thank you so much, Jamie Sherrah. We've really appreciated you coming onto the show today. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having me. Have a great day. Bye.
See
You too.
ya.
Thank you.